Genevieve Wood, people.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Man, Genevieve, I was just reading this article in the New York Times about the college Republicans and their grand idea. And here's the headline: College Republicans propose an unusual idea from the right, a carbon tax. I'm going, oh, great. A whole new generation of losers who are never going to win an election. Fantastic.
I thought we were against taxes.
Oh, golly. Oh, and they're all...
Not that I'm a college Republican, but you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
not that I don't like college Republicans. Great folks on many things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I haven't seen that story, but it doesn't sound like a good policy to me.
Oh, no. I mean, it definitely is not, but it gives you every indication of what really is going on here. Now, I don't know where the Heritage Foundation even sits on the concept of the tariffs or what have you, but we know for...
We're weary, I will tell you.
Yeah. Well, and who wouldn't be? Because you certainly have to be careful. You can't be a gunslinger when it comes to tariffs. Ronald Reagan tried that back in the day, and when he was taxing everything from Suzuki's to clothespins, it didn't work out great for our economy. So you do have to be a little careful about it. But this seems to be a reasonable approach, at least narrowing it. But I don't know. Well, what's your take on it?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what the ultimate approach ends up being. I think it's perfectly fine and right to talk tough on trade and to revisit trade agreements that we're currently in to make sure that, one, are they currently benefiting the United States? I mean, something that was good for us 10 years ago, 20 years ago, economies change, deals change, manufacturing changes. There's a reason that we should not go back and look at that, revisit them, and make sure that we're still getting the best we can get out of those. But just saying I'm going to slap tariffs on folks who are also acting badly can turn. Sometimes you should do unto others as you want them to do unto you. We've all heard that right from the Bible, and this is one of those areas where sometimes yes, we want to punish regimes like North Korea with sanctions and tariffs and the like, but sometimes punishing others can come back and punish us if we're not careful. And I think looking at the steel industry is a perfect example of that. I mean, there's analysis out there that says, depending on how you would go about this, yes, there may be 36,000 jobs that would be created by such new tariffs, but 179,000 jobs could be taken away. I'm talking about U.S. jobs. So, yeah, in one industry you might be helping people, but in a lot of other industries that are connected to you, you could be hurting a lot of people. Is that going to have a huge impact on the U.S. economy? Maybe not, but, talk to the 179,000 people who lose their jobs, and that's a real impact on them. So, again, it's how you approach it. I think it's great to talk, but we have to look at the hard numbers when you specifically look at what kind of tariffs we're talking about, exactly which countries, and the level that they would be.
Right. In the past, though, and I know that I'm actually citing a Pat Buchanan article that seems to be fairly well sourced. And I have to say that I'm not quite sure that there is a direct symmetry between the late 1800s industrial revolution overseen by President Cleveland and now.
Yeah,
but Pat Buchanan makes the case that actually by focusing on a more nationalistic economic approach, we grew wages, we grew our GDP, and others. Now, obviously, we didn't have a global economy at that time. You didn't have competition from other countries, and so you have to kind of take those numbers that Pat Buchanan is citing and apply them more to modern day. But nonetheless, he says, in the past, there hasn't been a real direct devastating result that many people are claiming there will be with this. But then you fast forward to the other situation regarding Ronald Reagan, where most people who are now fighting President Trump on this would probably claim that they're Reagan-esque and probably say that Reagan is their hero, whatever. But Ronald Reagan was also a pretty, he imposed some pretty extended kinds of protectionist measures that ultimately the Cato Institute found some of them were damaging, but nonetheless, some of them were not.
Well, no, that's right. That's exactly right. And look, I think Jamie, everybody has to go in with eyes wide open. We can't blindly say all tariffs are good, all tariffs are bad, or, that every trade agreement, quote unquote, free trade agreement is totally free trade. I mean, as I said, all these things should be examined. And I think it's good. One of the things I think that is one of the gifts of Donald Trump to the debate is that he mixes it up. You're not always sure where he's going to come out. And I know that makes people nervous, including me sometimes. But I think it's good that he's making people have to come out and really produce hard numbers, produce the facts, not just use talking points, have a vigorous debate. I think, you can get lazy when you don't have those. And you just fall back on free trade, or we should, economic sanctions. We should have real, thoughtful, and fact-based discussions. I think we're going to be he's forcing people to have that, especially within, I would say, the Conservative Party. And look, if it makes more Democrats and those within the steel industry and labor unions and the like come to the table and have the discussion because they think he's open to hearing their point of view, I don't think that's a bad thing, as long as the ultimate policy is truly best for the economy and American workers.
I do think, too, Genevieve, that this exit of Gary Cohn, while some are saying this is like a hemorrhaging of the administration. I mean, Gary Cohn, the guy is a good guy, but he's a Goldman Sachs guy. He's a guy who I don't think would want to have his name on whatever trade policy that President Trump is associated with. And I don't blame him because, he's a young guy relatively, and you want to be employable 15 years from now. And I don't blame him for saying, hey, I'm not going to get involved.
And look, he philosophically, I think, I don't know him personally, but from everything I know about him and what I've read, he philosophically very much disagrees with the administration. And I think his resignation is a sign that inside the White House, the leaning is towards a tariff-imposed policy. I don't think he walked out because his side was winning. Having said that, Gary Cohn is also not a stalwart conservative. He was good on tax reform and some economic measures, but he's not a conservative or even a Republican across the board in other areas. And you're right. I think for a whole host of reasons, he probably doesn't want his whole career branded as being a Republican administration official.
And you don't blame him. I think that at that point, I like the fact that there's some disagreement within the White House.
I think it's a good thing.
And people come and go, and Gary Cohn did what he felt he was doing. I appreciate what he did, and he's just on to another level. That's it. And we'll see you next week. No, is it? Yes, next week.
Will. I'm very much looking forward to being there.
Can't wait to see you, Genevieve. That's the Almond in the Evening with the Heritage Foundation. Jim Carafano, Genevieve Wood, and Jim Talent. Next week, we're going to be giving tickets away because it is a sold-out event. But we'll be giving tickets away, and that's for Thursday, the 15th of March. So anyway, Genevieve, we'll look forward to seeing you. We'll talk to you the day before, though. That's for sure.
See you then, sir.
All right, take care. It's Common Sense Radio, 969-9797, 866-455-9797.